Hey, wrestling card collectors, welcome to another edition of WTCtv, and here I am once again with Paul, the price guide man. How are you, sir?
I'm good, brother. How are you? These months are just whipping by, aren't they?
It just seems like you and I were chatting last week.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we were chatting last week probably about something, but
probably
yeah.
about something's true, but
Here we are,
here we are. Another
December.
month has gone
So we
by.
can look back, talk about what's happened in November. We're expecting some big things this month in December. We'll chat about that.
Yeah. Where do we start here with some? Let's talk about what happened in November.
Okay.
What kind of news did we have going on in November?
Trading card wise, the big drop obviously for November was the Transcendent product. And for those that aren't familiar, that's the Topps premium product that comes out. It's the third or fourth year that's come out.
Third year, I think
Oh,
now. Yeah.
yeah, it's all very interesting because we know that this is going to be the last year for all the Topps product, and this is going to be the last Transcendent. And we don't know if Panini is Prism, but are they going to have an ultra high end offering like Transcendent? And that product isn't really for me for the set collectors. It seems to me that the market for the Transcendent is for your super collectors, your PC guys that are specializing like you would in a Kurt Angle or like Elman would do on a Becky, and getting hold of as many of those kinds of things. It's very expensive. It's like 15 grand, I think, to buy into the product. And then
suggested retail on that was like 13,000 and change. So yeah, like 12,999.
yeah, like it's very expensive, but it's I won't say hugely popular, but certainly a popular product. There's a lot of collectors that are into it. So that was the big one. And the other one that came out from Topps UK, and it's going to be probably the last set out of Topps UK, and that was their Superstars. And it was a very big set. It was 225 pieces with about 4 or 5 insert sets, a whack of autos. It came in a binder. I just got mine a few days ago and did the flip through for it, and these were beautiful. Like it really, really was a nice set, better than the Champions one they did a couple of years ago, but sort of reminiscent of the one they did a few years ago that only came out in Europe. That was a premium product. Reminded me of the Platinum. It just there was something about the set that really looked good. So maybe this is Topps going out with a bang, given that
Clearly,
we're not going to see
doing.
yeah, going forward, that we're going to see less and less of this stuff. But those were the two big releases. Was there any independence? There was a lot of independent stuff that got announced on Black Friday. It hasn't made it to the checklist yet. There's a couple that we're around the corner from. We know that Leaf just introduced their Pop Century, which is a multi entertainment or multi-sport set that has some wrestling in it. And Leaf has done that before. In 2013, there was a Hogan, a Flair, and a Jericho in that set. And I think in 2015 again. So although Leaf has had some dedicated wrestling sets, 4 or 5 of those, you also find wrestlers turn up in their multi-sports issues. And that one just hit. I think Michael Moore did a piece on WTC about it.
Yep.
Which was great, sort of highlighting about these sets where you find the oddball wrestler in other sports. Yep. Yeah, so I think that's it. Anything else come to mind?
On the Black Friday aspect, there was a multiple independent card sets that came out to the point.
A bunch of guys released at the same time.
Yeah, a bunch were released at the same time, and announcements for already Series 2 on a couple of those, I think, coming out later.
Yeah.
So. I mean, the independent scene is crazy. It's on fire right now with a lot of different
Absolutely.
releases. It seems like everybody's trying to capitalize now on that independent card craze.
Well, the Bola stuff, the GCW stuff is gone up 4 or 5 times in value is the thing. So now when you're seeing these sets at $350, when we were buying them for $25 on the day, it's a big difference. You can buy this stuff now on their website for $20, $25. Look at the Impact stuff on the secondary market. It's now at $100. Okay? So we can see the rise in the independent. And I think it's just a viable alternative to the major relief product. People are digging getting these independent releases, and there's that. How do I put it? There's that. Am I going to get the next big superstar?
Well, I think that's half the battle right there with people.
I think so. You're going to get some young guy.
It's the speculations.
Right, some young guy that we don't know of yet, but is going to be the big thing, the next big thing in several years' time. And so there's that aspect of it too.
On the Transcendent side of things, when we first talked about that now, do you think the prices are going pretty high on those?
Yeah, very much so.
Higher than normal. Do you think it's because people realize it's also the last Transcendent set that people are kind of clamoring for that, and that's why the prices are going high?
Could be one of the biggest news items of the month was the fact that the Vince Superfractor, the one of one from that set, sold for $9,200 some odd dollars.
Which some people speculate would go even higher than that, though. So there was a little bit of like,
Yeah,
it's high, but we also thought it would go higher.
yeah. Now that actually is a record for noted for a recorded sale of a raw ungraded card. It's been suggested to me that there's been others on eBay or privately, but obviously we can't speak to those. We can only
Sure,
address the ones that are in the official record, and that's a big number, for events. There's also a Triple H that made $4,000, and we'll look at our numbers in a little bit.
sure.
But that could speak to your point that, yeah, this is the last set. Now, from a base card point of view, I've never been able to do the base sets because the 50 of them run about $1,000, right? So it's $20 a card, and it's it's costly. Some of the subsets, there's a Cena subset, and I think this time around there's a Rock and a Flair subset.
Hmm.
Maybe a little less money, but still very expensive. But we're seeing like $1,000 easy on some of these 101s, and some of the lesser name autographs are going for a couple $100 that they wouldn't otherwise. For example, you might see a lesser known person only be worth $30 or $40 on a heritage release or on just a 2021 release, but on the Transcendent, it's worth 2-3 times that, just because of the nature of the product, because it's higher end, right? So
Well, it should be the case, though, right? It's a
yeah,
higher
we
end
expect
product.
that to be
You
sure.
expect that.
Yeah,
But I think the prices are going up a little higher than normal because, again, I think people realize it's the last Transcendent product. And it's
that
just,
would explain it.
yeah, I mean, and in your opinion, do you think these things are going to go up in value after, in a year or two from now?
Yeah, I think that these last few top sets, and we'll talk about the ones that are supposed to come out next month, that'll come out in January and February, but they'll all get made, they'll all get put out. And we got to buy them. And I'll tell you why, because these last few sets are the last few sets of tops. And think about the Fleer scenario when they switched over, and how we were able to get our hands on some of that stuff, and how it just escalated in value. So I think that yeah, the prices are going to hold on this stuff. I
Well,
mean,
it
the
took about
trend,
15 years for Flair stuff to go up, but it went up.
it did. Yeah, at the time it didn't, but it did. And the Transcendent stuff has always been expensive, but we're seeing stuff like Fully Loaded, we're seeing stuff like Chrome, more of the premium kind of releases hold their value and do very well.
You
So
think
I
in
guess
this,
that would leave.
you think in these last ones, how is this going to affect, you think, some of the older Topps products that came out? Like, for instance, I've gone through and found, sets of refractor from 2006. I've got a box here full of, X fractors and stuff like that. I mean, I'm expecting this stuff to kind of go up,
Yeah, and we
even
talked
more.
about that last month, about the refractors and the chrome, and that how they become hugely popular, starting with that 2006, and anything fractor on it, super fractor, X fractor, regular fractor, they're all in high demand. So, and again, they're not going to be made ever again. Now we're going to get Prism product, we're going to get new stuff, we're going to get Upper Deck, but we're not going to get Topps Chrome, right? So yeah, I expect that to hold its value. Look, the Transcendent has done very, very well. You go online and you look at sales, and you're thinking, yeah, there's no shortage of people that's buying this stuff.
No.
And as I mentioned at the outset, it's the super collectors really that are going after select names. But there's guys out there, like a guy posted this morning, hey, I managed to buy 3 pieces of Transcendent for $100, which is
Yeah.
good. Any 3 cards, from the set that he got. And so he's bottom feeding. And I get that, because I did that for years and years and years
Sure.
with lots of stuff. Whatever I can get my relics and the autos. And, if an auto was $5 and I knew it was worth 20, I'd buy it. Right. So, it's going to be interesting. I mean, when we switch over to Panini and when Upper Deck comes out, it's going to be interesting to look back, and we have our price index, because we'll continue to look back at the Fleer release and the Topps releases and stuff and see how they do. So we'll have the
You think when we
answers for
start
the
doing
hobby.
our price index stuff, are we going to add any new items to it going forward in the new year? Are
We
we going
may do. We may take this inaugural AEW release as a
I figured,
benchmark and look look
I thought
look at
so,
it
yeah.
month after month. We might even do so with one of the new Paninis.
I think it'd be a good
We'll
idea,
play
adding
that up.
something to those, yeah.
Sure, just to get a better sense it's. I find that doing it this month is that, yeah, we're certainly coalescing to some sort of normalcy with these things. There's a little spike here, or this is down, but you can see that the market's still pretty much holding.
Yep. So speaking of things that are coming out, it's like that, what do we have
Yeah,
that's
so
still
that
left to come
was
out from Topps?
right. So that was what was. So let's talk about what is going to be. There's a
Yeah.
Zeppelin song. I think there's
Yeah.
a Zeppelin song called that. But
Yes.
what we're expecting in December, which we're not going to get, we're not going to get all of these. We're expecting on December 8th, we're expecting AEW and Topps Heritage. On the 15th, we're expecting the signature 2021 set, as well as the Fully Loaded. On the 29th, we're expecting the women's division. If you recall, we got the 2020 version just a few months ago, and then the undisputed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 releases, including the AEW, that's slated for December. Now, suffice it to say, we're not going to get all of them. Are we going to get some of them? Yeah, we're going to get probably 1 or 2 of the tops. This stuff is probably all made at this point. And remember, Tony, that if this stuff is made, it's going to get released and it's going to get sold.
Yeah.
People are saying, what's going to
And we,
happen?
and we
to the
know
top
some
stuff?
things like fully loaded will get released because we saw what's her name signing. I posted that on
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah,
Where she
exactly.
was
So
signing
it'll
all her
come.
relic cards and stuff like that, like piece of the trash can, which is kind of cool and stuff.
The big one, obviously, because we're at the precipice now, is the AEW. You know, we got our the 3 promo cards, or the 3 e-pack cards have been
Yep.
made into actual
Still haven't
cards.
gotten mine yet.
No, well, Chuck has mine.
Yeah.
Ours have been received, but they're down in Maryland. Yeah, so the Punk, the Ruby Soho, or was it Ruby? No, it was Daniel Bryan, Punk,
Daniel Bryan.
and Adam Cole.
Yep.
Those 3. We've been talking about this AEW for months and months and months and months, and now we're a week away. So I expect that it is going to drop on the 8th or in around. I think if there would have been a delay, we might have heard about it by now, and
Yeah.
there hasn't been an official announcement of a delay. So I think we're going to get the AEW set. I expect we'll get the Heritage because it was announced way back last year for December of this year, and I think it was a sort of time-based release. Now, with respect to the 2021, the fully loaded, the women's division, the undisputed, that may go into January. Nobody knows, but I would be very surprised if we got more than that. And when we're speaking at the end of the year, wishing everyone a happy new year, we'll be talking about, okay, this is what's on slate for January. And
Yeah.
that should wrap us up. Now, just because the license has ended for Topps and Panini takes over, that doesn't mean that Topps can't release product in 2021, or sorry, 2022. That just means that now they're staggering it, because it just doesn't do the market any good to drop.
Well, I think they do have a cutoff time. They can't just release at the same time that Panini puts out something. So I think
Well,
they have a grace. They have
Prism's
a
not
grace
going to
period.
come until, yeah, Prism's not going to come until what, March or April or something like
April,
that.
right around WrestleMania time.
WrestleMania, right? So that gives them enough time to put out whatever they've got left.
And part of this is
And
not due to anything other than production problems. That's all it really
Right.
is. I mean, talking with some of the other people, even doing the independent stuff, and waiting on paper, waiting on foils, waiting on packaging. These companies are backlogged on
Shrink
this
wrap.
stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just you can only print what you can print.
Yeah. And again, the cards might be printed, they might be packaged in boxes, and they don't have the shrink wrap to go outside the pallets or something like that.
Something
Whatever
like
it might
that.
be.
You never know.
You know, it could be there, so many factors A to Z to get it into our hands, and we get them. We won't do the eulogy on Top this month. We'll do it at next. We'll say goodbye to Tops formally for the next episode as we say goodbye to the year. But I'm still looking forward to some of this product. I mean, the fully loaded didn't really suit me because they didn't do a base set. It was all relics and autographs. But the Heritage set, if you recall, it was based on a baseball design that was very popular, I think, from the early 80s. And
1990, I think it was.
Was that what it was? 90,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's
And
designed
they
after.
were
I
quite
just
a neat
gave my
looking
local.
set.
I just gave my local card shop that complete base set that it's based off of from baseballs like that. So it had like I think card number 1 was like Jim Abbott on there. It's like that. I mean, it's got I think it's 1990 baseball. Topps
Yeah.
baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember that the design of it was very cool. It looked
Yeah.
good.
That's what attracted me to it. And it was so funny. I had just given him that set, and then I saw the press release on that set, and I go, I just gave you this exact. I mean, it was just funny to me, and I just I go, I kind of enjoyed that, but I don't collect baseball, so now I'm intrigued on getting the wrestling side.
Well, there's an interesting thing on a price guide, and I don't know if you've listed on WTC, but there's that one Hogan autograph that comes out of a baseball set.
Uh-huh.
It's if you knew the Hogan autograph I'm talking about, it's a common one. It's one of the more common ones that we see, and I think it's what's that? The cartoon, not the cartoon, but the vintage looking autographs.
Yes.
Anyways, I thought that I like you get sometimes in baseball sets, you'll get a wrestling card, and I actually have on my site a listing for a baseball set where that one Hogan, and it's a famous Hogan autograph, comes from.
Nice. Yeah. And I like it. I just like it. I think it's going to be a cool looking set. I think I changed my order up when I realized I was getting the AEW stuff.
Right.
So I went, from like having 3-4 boxes of Heritage I was going to order to maybe 1, because I ended up ordering a case of AEW. So, but I am looking forward to the Heritage set.
Allen and Ginter. That's what I couldn't think of a moment ago.
Oh.
The Allen and Ginter.
Oh yeah, I got
autograph.
some
that
around
actually
here somewhere.
Yeah, it's a very popular autograph of his, and that actually came out of a baseball set, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have one sitting here. I have one recently. I just posted something about it, but it looks similar to this. Like here's the Layla one I have. Oops.
Right.
Every
Oh,
time
oh,
I hit my button there. There we go.
there you go. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And there's a whole, yeah. So
Yep.
I'd be curious to see if we get those again. I don't know if the Allen Ginter thing is a tops relationship or if we might see that kind of card again. Certainly, I'm looking forward to the variations that we might get, notwithstanding Prism, but maybe the art cards that we might see and the different kinds of cards that are coming our way. But with respect to the new releases, once we're done these tops, then we're new day, smooth sailing with AEW and Upper Deck and Panini and tops going forward, or
I'm not as
WWE going
familiar
forward.
with Panini releases like that, but do you happen to know how often do they release probably first, for
I
each
don't, I
each
don't.
I'm
Even when we
wondering,
had
are we gonna see a same type of like almost every other month we're gonna get another release of wrestling, or
I guess like when we did the roundtable with the guys with Brett and Adam, those guys are more familiar with the other
Mhm.
Panini product. They know their baseball, they know their hockey, they know their soccer, so they would have a better sense as to what the release sort of frequencies are. No clue. Topps put out a lot of sets, like starting in 2017 or so, they started putting out more sets per year than I care to see. So I'm hoping that they don't blow their load, Panini and Upper Deck for that matter. I'm okay with 4 to a half a dozen sets a year. I wouldn't want to see it get much more than that, but I guess they service the market as needs to be serviced, right?
even at a half a dozen, it's like basically one every other month. It's like hard to keep up.
Sure. Well, just consider, we got AEW product, we got Panini product, you got these independence things coming out, like,
Yeah,
boatloads of them coming out
yeah,
every month. Like it's a lot. And as we talked off air, this indie stuff is getting expensive, right?
yeah.
To keep up with it all. The
Well,
the
especially
hobby
if you're going to go back and try
from
to, collect the old stuff. Yeah. But even with the new stuff, I mean, Black Friday was an indication of how much product came out in one day from different organizations. And, it
yeah,
starts to add
everyone
up when you're looking at 25 to 30 bucks a pop for each set. There's like a half a dozen
sure.
sets that come out that day. It's like, that's a lot of money.
Everyone
That's a car
everyone
payment for
uses the
someone.
day as everyone uses that day as their forum to sort of announce, hey, we got this. And by the way,
Yeah.
we got volume 2 to this that we just
Yeah.
announced. It's like, well, hang
Yeah.
on, guys, let's get volume 1 into the books first before we talk about volume 2. But that's you
Yeah.
know, and then God knows what unofficial stuff we got coming our way. There's always
Every
that
day.
market for you, Tony. Yeah,
Every day.
you know. So speaking about unofficial, shall we get into the Indian
Let's
stuff?
get into the Indian stuff, man.
Yeah. So why all of a sudden is Paul talking about India? Besides the fact that I'm half Indian, in case anyone didn't know that. But you had a great talk with Rich Felligan a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and Rich Felligan, for those that don't know in a hobby, is our resident Japanese expert. He's been sort of over the last few
From
years, sort
from
of.
way, way far away in Michigan.
Yeah, in Michigan. Well, he's actually close to me,
Yeah.
and I thought that was a great episode. And so it was, and I thought, well, it's good that we covered that. And I was aware that there was product out of Asia, specifically India, but also Indonesia and China. I had a couple of sets listed. Anthony had a couple of sets listed, and we knew that they were these Indian trump cards.
Mm.
But I had the feeling there was a lot more of them. So I did a deep dive, sort of going back. And when we did the episode on the Slam Attack stuff, we started to realize that in the UK, the Slam Attack stuff has become highly collectible, even though it was meant to be a CCG, a game for kids to play, because they were nice looking cards. People have started to collect them. Now that isn't the case with these Indian trump cards. And when I say trump cards, if people aren't familiar with what a trump card is, trump is a game that you play, and it's very simple. You'll have a card, and each card will have a bunch of characteristics, and kids will go back and forth choosing the characteristic or attribute that they think will beat the other guy. And if they do, they get the card. And that's how it goes. And they play these things, but they don't collect them. And what ends up happening is that these young kids from back in the 90s would be playing these games, and these cards would get torn to hell, and that's why we don't see them in great quality. I mean, very very few mint sets out there. But specifically, what we have to talk about is the sort of dubious nature of these cards. Now, we've talked about unofficial cards before, and I just want to set the record straight on how these are a little bit different, because you have to look at the economy from which they come in. Now, these trump cards are distributed by national recognized distribution companies like Universal Distribution, Mahavir Trading Cards, Adanath Exports. We have Amango making product today. These are companies that service the entire Indian mainland, and a lot of the stuff that they do is contraband. So it's not, and their product mix is not just trading cards for kids and trump cards, but they'll have sugar, they'll have handbags, they'll have cosmetics, they'll have clothing,
Sure.
they'll have
There's a
they'll
lot of
have
off-brand
parts
stuff
for
going out there.
trucks. Correct, correct. Yes, and off-brand is the right word because black market is stuff that's illegal
Sure.
or stolen. Gray market is usually legitimate product that's not that goes through unauthorized distribution. In India, it's the other way around. It's authorized distribution. So companies that service stores and groceries all across the country. And remember, we're talking about billions of people over there. But we know just by looking at the quality of these cards, by looking at the printing, by the mistakes on these cards, that they're unofficial. They're very much like the Konamis. They're very much like those Mexican sets that we've looked at before. So it begs the question, how come? And it's an Indian thing. I'm sure that a lot of the other
quality
products.
assurance type of thing. It's a QA part.
Well, it has to do with like I know that Bret Hart was big in India in the 90s, and WWE toured there then, and kids were playing these Trump games. So WWE had to be aware that there was a lot of merchandise that was illicit on the Asian continent, and I think that they just accepted as that's how things go there, because again, when I say about these companies that are legit companies, the cards, we don't know where they're getting printed, but there's a bunch of sets, for example, from 2001 to 2005 that all have a very similar looking layout, but there's different performers. But there's tons of stuff like spelling mistakes, and like if you look at the last 3 sets that I posted for 2021, you'll see Shane McMahon misspelt, you'll see Roman Regan's misspelt. Then you'll look at some of the pictures, and you'll say, oh, these look very legitimate. But in the Amango release, the Kevin Owens picture card says Daniel Bryan. You go back through the history of these, and that's what I like to do. I like to post the stuff that has spelling mistakes and fun stuff. Like I sent one to Zan that was the Miz, but it wasn't the Miz. It was this jacked up Indian guy. The Miz wishes he looked so good. Another one of my favorites is Michael Hayes, but it's actually a picture of Mil Mascaras flying off the top rope.
Very all very pays homage to the Monty Gum set.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. My favorite though is Beefcake Barber.
Beefcake Barber, love that.
Beefcake Barber turns up a few things. I can tell you, Great Khali turns up in like 90% of all the sets that are.
Well, why wouldn't he?
Why wouldn't he? And you don't get as many of the female wrestlers, especially in your other sets. But for anyone that's interested in that stuff, I think that, given that we talk about all the different things outside, the non-traditional stuff, I call it novelty cards, like Valentine's cards and phone cards and things that aren't strictly wrestling cards. These are Trump cards. These were like the guy I spoke to, Sunil, a very nice guy that was very helpful in my research. He spoke to his cousin in Punjabi, and the message that was coming back was that it was very nostalgic for him to think about playing these games. He said cricket and wrestling. They had these cards, and they would just play them, but they just didn't become collectible for whatever reason. Now that we've identified them, and you're updating WTC with them as well,
yep.
I'm glad that they're going to be part of the official record because they might become collectible. I just found another set that I didn't know what it was, and that's why I bought them, because I needed to catalog them. And luckily, as I mentioned to you off air, it did say a manufacturer's name on it, and it did have a date on it, so I was able to slot it into the record. But a lot of these is guesswork, but we don't work on guesses. So in my case, I went back and I found a couple of guys. They had Facebook pages. They were able to show me some images, and through back and forth, I was able to put together a pretty complete record. And there is stuff out there that we're still missing, but I think it was 41 new sets that I put up this month.
After I just got done doing all the stuff that I got from Rich for all the Bushy Road stuff from Japan, I did 21, 22 sets. I've got a couple more from him to go through. He's been going through the website and filling in holes and stuff like that, and doing complete stuff for some of the checklists that were missing things. But I'm finishing that, and I got to go through now. And Chuckster went through and took your record just like that and put them in the checklist format for me. And I know a lot of them we have, like there's a set, it's just blank. It just has nothing in it. We know that it exists, but there's no actual list. and just says here's how it released and where, and that's it. So we got like placeholders now until we get the actual cards in hand, I guess, to
And I'm not done. There's still quite a bit more research to do. Anthony's made me aware that there's 3 or 4 that we're missing. I'm aware of another one that I just don't have. It's just tricky, Tony, because you're not sure. So what I've done is when I've got the date right and I've got an image, at least I can bang off the names of the cards.
Mm.
But that's why we're just labeling from now Indian trump cards, Indian trump set. If it's
And
Mahavir,
these things may change. I mean, as far as the
yeah,
naming out rhythms go, they may change as more information. It's what's the beautiful thing about this hobby too. Is like
yeah.
it doesn't matter how long ago it was that you assumed something, and then you come back later and go, you know what? That's not actually right. It's actually
Like
this.
those classics for years and years, right?
Oh,
You
it's not.
determined that we were wrong on that,
Yeah,
and now we've got to make that change. Similarly, as you do more research, as Husker does more research, we'll update so that we can have consistency for the hobby out there.
absolutely.
But it's just good that that these are part of the story now.
Yeah, it's just finding new names and the correct names. It's always, especially things that are, 20, 30 years old, it becomes really difficult to try to find, information, that kind of stuff. It's kind of like, well, if you guys don't know, who the hell knows? Like, well, that's kind of what we do. We go out there and have to research this stuff to find people out there who just,
Well, sometimes we get lucky and we find a Veligan that has been on it for several
yeah,
years. And in this case, Sunil, he has a cousin, and he sent me his Facebook, and from there I was able to get a lot of the images, and I'm still waiting on getting us final permission from this guy to use his images so that you can put them on
sure.
WTC and we can put them on a price card, and we're there. I've updated the images for the 2021, so at least the audience can see what they look like. And in some cases, they're nice cards, but more so they're for a laugh. When
Yeah.
you look at some of these names and some of the spelling mistakes,
I will
and
need to get at least one higher res image from you from each one of those releases so I can put it up there as a feature set, when I actually put those checklists together. So because
yeah,
I'm at the point now where I don't want to promote a checklist that's been added yet until I have at least one image to feature it, to
yeah,
promote
because
it.
we've got one from New Zealand that just hit. We don't have an image for it,
Yeah.
and I told Chuck yesterday I can't do nothing with this one until we get the image.
Yeah.
And like, you can't do anything till you get the checklist. Now I can skip that, because what I do is I skip the checklist sometimes, just put the chase cards, or sometimes I'll just say, hey, this exists and here's a price roughly on what we think it's worth. But we're narrowing the gap, Tony.
Yep.
We're too, we've got great people that are helping us out, guys like
Absolutely.
Felgen and Chuck and Armand and
Which
these
I think
guys.
it's going to become very key and helpful. Well, it's always been a helpful thing, but it's going to become even more of a key thing for collectors once this Panini wagon starts moving forward here, because we're going to get a lot of new eyeballs in the product, and there'll be a lot of new people who didn't know anything about wrestling
Yeah.
cards coming in, whether it be from an investment standpoint or because, hey, it's cool. I'm familiar with Prism. I'm familiar with these different types of things that Panini puts out. And they're going to be looking for resources to kind of guide them
Yeah.
into what else is out there besides this rock 1 of 1 card that Panini put out, and
Right.
and prisms like that. Oh, there's other wrestling cards out there. Well,
Well, let me tell you this. Since I've uploaded the Indian stuff, the amount of traffic I've gotten and emails from India has been incredible. So we've opened up that door to our world. And again, these kids didn't have the standard product. They, believe it or not, you can't buy an impulse set in India, but you can
I find that hard to
get.
believe.
I know, but that's what I asked. I said, "Are you aware of Topps product? Did you ever see any of the standard release issues?" And it was no. It was just these Trump things, cricket and wrestling, and they were just played. That's why the Hulk Hogan, which was one of the best cards, is torn to ratchet, because that's the one that kids were smacking down all the time.
Sure,
Because
because he's a globally known person.
yeah, and that was the winning card, right?
Yeah.
But I think that they may become collectible. To your point about new people coming into the hobby, everybody's sort of, you're a player collector, you're a set collector, you're this, you're that. Well, maybe
Well,
you're an oddball
let's
collector.
go. Let's also go from the investment standpoints like that. Is there anything that in your research that you found from these India cards that you go and like, this could be the card that people want to go after and find from this
Well,
set?
then ask me that question, because we found an Owen Hart in 1994, and that right away raises an eyebrow, right? There was an Owen Hart card in the Action Pact, but I can't verify if there's any rookie card or first appearance status in any of this stuff. I mean, it's all spotty at best.
Mm-hmm.
So what I can recommend to people is just hop onto the site and look around as there's images, and over time we'll get more images, we'll get more videos. I'll be trying to accumulate more of the product, and we'll put it all out there for the world to see. But that's a maybe at this point.
Okay.
with respect to its value, um, I think that it's a bit of an unknown commodity. So when people, I can't be the only guy that enjoys doing this kind of stuff, that
No.
wants to get my hands on it. So I think other collectors will, set collectors will, if you can get it inexpensively enough. Just bear in mind that the quality is all very, very poor. It's very,
So
very hard to find this
for
stuff in mint
those
condition.
that are listening or potentially watching this, because we're doing two different versions of this actual show now, um, price wise, is it affordable?
Well, yeah,
If you can find it, is it
yeah,
affordable?
I think so. Like I just bought a set. They're 2001s, and it was a complete set in reasonably good condition, and it was done in pounds. It was done in British dollars, and it cost me to Canada just over 60 pounds. So 60 pounds is going to be about 90 bucks Canadian. So, no, it's not, they're not free. It's not 20 bucks,
Sure.
but it's not transcendent. It's not a stupid amount to have a set of something that's unique. And I'm telling you that there's not a lot of this shit out there. A lot of this stuff has been destroyed.
Yeah.
So if you happen to find some of this stuff, now it was manufactured in fairly large quantities. They weren't, a couple hundred sets. There were tens of thousands of these things put out.
Sure, but
They
like you
just
said,
they just didn't
if
survive.
you're talking about the second most populous country on the planet, with
Yeah,
over 1 billion people, and these kids are enjoying their cards and playing them, like you said, they get beat to hell, and then they get tossed. So
yeah,
have that happen, several thousands of times,
yeah,
and that just kind of makes the what's available even less. So
yeah. But they are still coming out. Like we have three from this year. If you look on my site for 2021,
sure, if I'm
there
going
was
forward, going forward now, but if I'm someone who wants to go back and now, hey, this is a new a new place that I've never collected before. I want to go back and collect all the old stuff. That can become a little more difficult because, as you said,
yeah,
people
like
start throwing the stuff away.
the earliest one that we found was 1994, I believe, and I found a video for it. And I reached out to the guy. He said, by all means, link to this. And if you look at the video that this guy has of it, it's a mint set of 94 Indian trump cards, probably the first. And I'm like, I've never seen an Indian card look this good since. You know what I mean? So it's just a different mentality.
Sure.
But that's why when people cry out bootleg right away, it's like, yeah, but with a grain of salt, bootleg. You have to understand
It's that fine line right there kind of thing where it has the legal distribution rights to it, but it's obviously
correct.
someone who's making these isn't really the quality control on the actual product
Quality
design
control isn't
itself
there.
isn't really
Right.
there.
No
Um,
quality control. They don't have the copyright from WWE
yeah.
or WCW
Versus
or
the
TNA.
opposite of like the Konami stuff like that came out where I submitted that stuff to Tops when I first started hitting the eBay scene. They're like, we didn't license this stuff at all. Like this is not,
And it said tops right. It said tops right on
and
those
it has a
cards.
top. It's like we didn't authorize it. Well, it was based on the 2007 Insider design on the
That's right.
backs like that. It's like uh, one clearly we didn't authorize this because we're a WWE licensed product. And
Right.
why is there WCW stuff mixed in there? Kind of
Even
stuff.
on
And we
these
didn't.
Indians, we've got two TNA sets, and the TNA ones, it came out in 2004, in around the time of the Pacific. And if you look at the feature image I put for CM Punk, I've never seen that picture
Yeah.
before. Yeah. So
Which would be
so
no. Well, there you go. There's an interesting card that people might want to go after. It's like that. If looking for investment purposes, like no,
well,
this is
there's a Kurt Angel card that you're probably going to want,
yeah.
right?
I definitely want Angel.
Yeah, you want the Kurt Angel card.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I wouldn't have went head first into this stuff if I didn't think that there was benefit to it. And again, with Husker working on his site and getting it sort of up to date, and knowing that he asked me, you want to jump into this stuff? Yeah, I told Anthony, I'll go and see what I can find on this stuff. And I think I texted you one night when I was like,
Yep.
dude, there's a shit ton of this stuff that we don't
Yeah.
have, like. And then I made the mistake of promising everybody I'd have it ready for the weekend, and I kept finding stuff before I could update. But everything that I've got posted now is accurate. And Chuck is getting the stuff prepped for you. So
Yeah, I've
you'll
got like 50 some odd emails sitting there waiting between stuff that Chuck sent me
yeah,
and what I have left over from the Japanese stuff. So, and that's going to be another ongoing project for me as well as the Japanese stuff. There's so much out there. I mean, I've already got a bunch, already listed on the website in whatever partial
yeah.
sections they are.
I'm gonna
And then going through storage, I found, all these partial sets of Japanese stuff I have in storage. I don't even know how I came across those things, but I have, I had some that were just, partial this much. I found a box that had nothing but Japanese cards in it. And I was
yeah.
like, okay, what are these? And I've got a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of
Yeah.
work to do.
Well, that was the thing with this Indian set I bought, is that I couldn't identify it. It's like I'd spent the last month, learning about all this stuff. And then what's this set that this guy has on eBay? I haven't seen this set. There's a whole set of them here. And he didn't know what year they were. And I bought them, and luckily it said on the box 2001. I'm like, if it didn't say that, I'd have no idea.
Yeah.
And there are some like that, but I'm taking on faith that the guys that bought them at the time and made the Facebook videos or posted them or whatever got the dates right. That's all we got. It's hard to go back. It's hard to go back to something that happened 20 years ago. When we're looking at it and archiving it or recording it for the first time.
Like I said earlier, it's an ever growing thing. It changes. Sometimes we have complete set names. I made the switch on that on the 91 Impel. Everybody calls it like that. It's called the Stomp Collection. That's the name of the actual official name of the set. So I had to make that change. You can call it whatever you want.
Even the other day, I sent you that new one out of Texas, the President's Choice, and you asked me what's the name of the company. I said, I think they're actually called President's Choice. Yeah. And you said, yeah, President's Choice. That's the name. But it's okay, because now we can go to websites and we can get information about something that just came out recently. Even on the Amongos, they just came out now, and I put the price at $15 because the price in India now for that Trump set is 7 rupees, which is like, I don't know, 80 cents, something like that. Like the money doesn't translate over. But I'm telling you that there's a lot of kids in India that all of a sudden are happy to see these Trump cards being listed. I don't know that they want to go and collect them, but just because the nostalgia factor that, hey, when I was a kid, we used to do this all the time.
It's also recognition. Look what came from our country.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some prices.
Let's do some prices. Let's move on to our monthly prices now.
Yep. Oh, we'll do the index first, or do you want to do the top sales first?
Let's do the index, man.
Okay, let's do the index. So this is our monthly, guys, that we do every month, that we started back in June, and we've been looking at 5 particular cards: 85 Hulk Hogan, a Impel base set, the Fleer base set, a Stone Cold 98, and a Charlotte recent. And what we've got for this month is that we've seen a bit of movement on the 85 Hogan. It was pretty consistent around $50. And we've got a couple of big number sales here. There's one here of 100, there's 2 here at 75, 3 in fact, which has raised the average up to about $70. And this is for a raw 1985 not OPG, Topps Hogan.
Which is about a $20 increase from the month before.
Yeah, but let's see next month if it sort of trends back down to the 50 range, because it was floating around that 50 for the longest time.
But when we started this this spreadsheet here that you've got going here, do you anticipate, like in your experience, do you anticipate sales numbers to kind of taper off because we're towards the holiday season, or not?
I don't know. You mentioned that last time. You thought that it would get quieter going into Christmas.
Typically I would think so, that it would get a little quieter, but the way the market is in the last year and a half now, 2 years, it makes it really unpredictable now. You can't really tell.
It's hard to say. Yeah, like even if you go to your set, the 91 Impels, right? They've been sort of consistent at about $15. They went up last month to 20, but then back down to $15 this month. So that means that when you're cranking them out of your storeroom, you just didn't make enough of them, I guess, to keep the price up.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
I love how these stories and these myths that are brought up within our inner circle of people here, it seems to keep carrying on.
Yeah, but somebody somewhere has a printing press that's making them, because if I go to a bazaar, if I go to a church sale and I'm going to find a wrestling card, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be the Impel, right?
It's true.
Like they just made a lot of it, a whole lot of it. What else we got? We got the Steve Austin card. It held firm at 1271, 14. So it's basically in line. And then we go to the Royal Rumble set, the Fleer set, and that's sort of the benchmark of the Fleers. And it's gone back up a little bit to 195, but it was 192 last month. So that's a $200 set by and large. It's holding steady as far as I can see.
Absolutely.
Like, look at 160, 172, 180, 192, 195. You know what I mean? So it's right in that line. And then the one that never changes, Charlotte, she went up a little. She did actually okay.
She went up about $10.
Yeah, this is for the undisputed Charlotte autograph. And the only reason why we picked that one, if people are wondering why Charlotte Flair, is because there just seems to be a lot of them. We need to find cards that consistently sell month after month after month so that we can see how they're doing. If you only sell one a month, that doesn't really give us a good aggregate to average them out. So when we look at this, the average on the month at 56.91 is a little higher than last month. And in fact, if you go, yeah, it's the highest month yet that we've had. So in 6 months, we've seen the prices trend up a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting spreadsheet of watching what's going on, like that. And a Royal Rumble set, I think that Royal Rumble set itself is just going to continuously go up slightly, whether it be $5 or $10 month after month. I think it becomes because of that strong rookie class. People are looking for that. And again, I've said this before many times. It pains me to know how many of those sets I had. I received so many long 5,000 count boxes from Grimm. Back that he sold me so many sets and singles to make my own sets. I probably had 30 to 40 of those base sets like that, and I couldn't sell them at wholesale for $8 a set back in the day.
Now that of that set, when we say $200, you can buy the John Cena rookie, right? Ungraded for 100 to 150.
Yeah,
I found a couple of those, so that gives you an idea. It's like the $50 Hogan set in the tops. That's why that top set is $100 and something now. You got one card that's worth half of that. That's the case. It seems like the Cena is the big card of the four thus far. All due respect to Randy and Brock.
We should probably do let's do a ranking on that. So of those four, how would you rank them from top to bottom? As far as
Cena number one. The market's picked Cena as one, and then we've got Brock and Randy, and who's the fourth one?
Batista.
And Batista. It's interesting. Personally, I put Brock at number 2, then Batista, then Randy, but that's probably just my personal pickings.
I was just curious, and maybe we should do for next month we'll do a little bit of homework and talk about those 4 specific cards and how they rank as far as what drives that set. We know what drives that set. It's those.
Well, in modern sets, in the modern sets, it's something that that Gelman has done is he's tried to rank your performers. So you take your Becky and your Alexa and your Roman as your top tier, and then you take your next bunch of guys and then get down to your Miz's and your at the lowest level. And it has nothing to do with wrestling, but it has to do with how many times they've appeared on card, how and things like that, so that we can give sort of a weighted approach to it. And that's an interesting thing, having sort of, okay, here are the top current names in the hobby, and then here are the top legends. Hogan's always going to be a name, Flair, sure. Andre,
but specifically that set, I want to break
those
that set
4
down.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do next month is I'll go looking, and I'll look for an Orton, I'll look for a Batista, I'll look for a Cena. But like I said, I know that the Cenas are trading in between 100 and 150. So when we say that the Royal Rumble set is $200, keep in mind that just the Cena alone is 150 potentially of that. Right.
Which it leaves you, another $50 to spread out between 3 other guys, and it's like
and all the rest of the cards.
Yeah,
and
all the rest of the cards.
Other nice cards.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it doesn't seem to bode well for those other 3, strong rookie class cards to carry the other $50. I mean, it just seems like it's all Cena, and then what? $5 to Randy. I mean, it seems a little weird.
Yeah, we'll look at that and see. But that often happens. That's a phenomenon that we've seen before, is that 1 or 2 cards far eclipse the perceived value of the site just because of whatever reason. Okay, my friend, shall we get into the top sales?
Let's go in the top sales, man, which is seems to be predominantly it's all transcendent stuff for the most part. A lot of it.
Yeah, well, the top sale, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier on this episode, was that the Vince McMahon Superfractor, the 1-of-1, traded for $9,326, and as far as we know, that is the highest sale ever of an ungraded Raw wrestling card. So congratulations to Vince. The number 2 on
not to Vince, because it was listed as Mr. McMahon. It wasn't even listed as
Vince. Yeah, it's to his character, right? Now, I should say, as a guy that has over 1,500 wrestling autographs, I do not have a Mr. McMahon autograph. One of the few. And I pretty much got everybody else, but I don't have a Vince and I don't have a Shane. So, one day I'd like to get a Vince, but not.
Maybe something to go after, just to have it in your collection to say you have it.
Yeah, well, I did bid on one once, one of the Transcendents. I think I bid $800 and I didn't get it. I came in second. So basically, if you're not going to spend $1,000, you're not getting a Vince. But I never had a Brock. I got my first Brock several months ago, and I only paid $100 for it, and that's why I jumped on it, because I thought $100 for a Brock is good.
That's a really good price, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So if you ever see a Vince McMahon autograph, Transcendent and or the one that came out, there's another one that he was in earlier this year. I can't remember what the set was, but there was a Vince auto there. If you see that for $100,000, buy it.
Buy it.
Yeah.
Or contact Paul and let him know because he
Well,
might be
let me know
interested.
or I'll buy it. Yeah, exactly. 2021 Triple H Transcendent Superfractor, 44.95. So almost $5,000, $4,500 for the Triple H. Then we have our top Hogan All-Star of the month. It was a PSA 7 that traded for $37.50. And we've said this before. We expect every month that an All-Star Hogan or All-Star Flair or an All-Star Andre will be one of the top sales. And we also expect a WCW autograph. And we did have that this year in a Eddie Guerrero that went for $1,400. And I think a Savage went for 12. I didn't mark it. But back to the top of the list, we had the Hogan. Then we have something interesting. In the Transcendent set, there were these one-of-one Garbage Pail Kid sketch cards.
Which are so cool looking.
Yeah, they are very nice looking. And the 2021 Goldberg one of one sold for 3,725. The
Amazing.
the Ultimate Warrior one of one sold for 2,125. You know, so that's big money. You know, for a wrestling card.
And you have on the list Eddie Guerrero Transcendent one for 1,400.
Yeah, yeah, so sorry, yeah, and Eddie Guerrero as well. So you can see, like, of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the list were all for Transcendent, and that shouldn't surprise us really because it is a premium product. It just got released, and like you say, if it's if people are jumping on this release knowing that you're never going to get another one, that could explain it. Some of the other ones, 2021 Roman Reigns Transcendent one of one, $2,200. Then we got a 2021 Scarlet one of one for $2,175. Now that's interesting that Scarlet and Roman Reigns are the same money, but if I go down to the one of one Charlotte Flair, that's only $1,000. So funny that a Scarlet would be double, more than double a Charlotte Flair for the one of one.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It could be that Charlotte has a lot more stuff out there. When you buy these things, Tony, it's like when I come up with the pricing, I try to explain to people it's not just eBay, because people's ability to bid at a certain time, there's so many factors that go into what causes one day to the next. You sold some stuff earlier this year where you left a few $100 on the table only because you missed it by a day. And we can't control these things.
It's all about who's looking and when they're looking.
Who's looking, when they're looking, and when it's up, and when people have just been paid and when they're in the mood to spend money, and what
especially
kind of
when you're doing auction style
having.
type listings. If you're doing an eBay store or doing a good till cancel type of thing and just set your price and leave it at that, that's something different, and it stays there until someone actually pays you your price. But if you're just doing a straight auction, I mean, it's all about who's looking and when, and when you're doing it.
Yeah, because like there's stuff I see all the time. It's like, oh shit, I'd have paid that for that. But
exactly,
how can you can't be on the computer 24/7. And at this stage, you have to understand, it's like we have a saying in real estate that there's enough to go around for everybody. Like don't sweat it because you see the next guy trading and you're not. Just get up tomorrow and go to work. It's the same thing with wrestling. If you buy the cards, we often see this on Twitter. People say, if you want it, buy it. And that's so true, because you never know that you might not get another chance. And, if you don't get card A, then okay, you'll get card B. And that's the whole thing about being a collector, whether you're a super collector like me or Chuck on the base sets, or whether you're a Tony that does Loomis and Angle, there's always going to be another card out there for you to get. And that's what makes it fun. You can't. There was a time where many, many years ago, I was getting close to having every wrestling card that was ever made, not counting the early Japanese stuff. Well, those, as soon as Topps printed,
same here.
yeah, as soon as Topps printed the first parallel card, that's when that all went out the window. And that kind of made it good, because now there's something for everybody. And when we talk about Transcendent, we talk about, higher end guys that are spending big bucks, $600-700 a card, just to get the one card they need in their rainbow.
I wonder how many of these guys that we talked about, these guys might be player collector type base. And I agree with that. But I bet there's a good percentage of these guys who are buying stuff like that purely on speculation for investment purposes.
Could be.
I really think so, because there is that aspect, like we've talked about, where it's the last Transcendent release.
Yeah.
But I think the market is starting to expand a bit for when it comes to wrestling, which I'm grateful for that. It's what we're trying to do, let people know that there's a fun aspect of wrestling cards. There's also an investment, profitable side of wrestling cards as well that hasn't really been tapped.
And it
So
could
I'm
be
wondering,
both. There,
yeah, I
there's
think it'd be
overlap.
both.
There's overlap between the two. You know, like I've never approached wrestling card collecting by, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy 30 of this card because I think down the way it's going to be worth something.
Sure.
But in trying to get my hands on as much stuff as I could, I've amassed a sizable and valuable collection. So
Yeah.
even though you don't buy with the investment value in mind, it's like anything, any collectible. If you buy today, all things equal, it should be worth more tomorrow, right? And that's what antiquities are. You know, people that treat this as a stock market or are trying to make money, you know, be careful. But
Well, like it's the same rules apply to trading cards in this collectible world as it would to stock markets. It's
sure,
when to buy, when to sell. Be careful. There's high risk, there's low risk, there's long term, there's short term. I've
yeah,
been preaching this for decades, and it's just nice to see that some people now are starting to kind of jump on that, going, you know, it kind of is that way. So when I
yeah,
see these discussions going on social media talking about like, well, there's no, you know, it's not an investment. Stop using the word investment. It's they're idiots. I'm sorry to those out there who talk that trading cards are not investments and think that it's not a something you can actually make money off of.
yeah,
You're an idiot, because
yeah,
you can. 100% has been proven time and time again that you can.
yeah.
That's what we have the David Pecks of the world's like that out there. You know, his name gets dropped in every single one of our episodes, it seems like, and I feel like he should pay us. But it's just it's the truth. I mean,
Yeah,
you have a guy, ask
Ask
him
Ken Golden about investing in trading cards. You know what I mean?
exactly. Ask these
You know,
guys. You have a Peck out there who 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was, you know, people laughed at because he's like investing in wrestling cards and sweaty men in tights. So what? It's an
yeah.
enjoyable thing that I like,
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
It's for entertainment purposes.
You know how much grief I've gotten from my people, from my friends over the years? You collect what? Why?
Exactly. I have the same
You know,
things like
it's
that.
like because I
I
love
don't give a shit.
wrestling. You know, I'm a wrestling fan first and foremost. I've been watching it since I was this high. I've
Mm.
never gotten off of it. You know, for whatever reason, it's just never gotten old for me.
So it's
And
just
it's
there
you
can
know,
be money to be made in here. It's like that, and I've said it many times before. For most people, there's not enough zeros in this hobby for them to really be interested. But I think that's about
compared
to
to other
change.
hobbies, yes, but
I
yeah,
think it's going to change here. And when you start seeing a Vince McMahon sell for you know getting close to 10 grand, that's not something to sneeze at.
no, no,
And I,
I saw Luke Skywalker. You know, so
55 grand.
yeah, for that first one. You know how many of those cards I had in my gym bag when I was a kid that I was throwing around?
You
You
and me
know,
both.
I look at that, I'm like, fuck me. That, you know, like Jesus, you know, it's like the Gretzky's I sold to start my first business. And no, I'll keep the wrestling cards just 'cause I like wrestling,
Yeah.
you know. You don't know.
You don't
You
know,
don't
but
know.
you know what?
But the
If
woulda,
you
coulda, shoulda
make
thing is like I could drive you around this city and say, you see that building? You know, I own that at one point. You know, see that, you know, you know, why don't you own it anymore? Because I'm dumb, because I sold it and I thought, okay, I'll, you know,
it doesn't matter
don't
if
know.
you turn a profit, no matter how big that profit was, it doesn't matter. You did well. You
Yeah,
didn't lose money. You
no,
know, when I talk about selling my Hogan, my Flair, my Andre from the All Star set, it's like, yeah, I could have made a lot more money, but I made good money off those based on what I paid for them. So I can't play the shoulda,
yeah,
coulda, woulda
exactly.
games. I just move forward and go and just
When you
half
were
of
holding that brick of Rey,
yeah.
sorry, when you were holding that brick of Rey Mysterio WCW autograph cards, did you think at that time you're going to be holding
No,
something that a guy like Jamie Wallace
they're willing to
or
pay me $1,000 for probably. You know, no, I
yeah, you
never
know what I
thought
mean?
that. No.
You know, tons of guys would pay you $1,000 for that now,
Yeah, I mean, at the
right?
time, you know, what I paid for them and what I ended up when I sold them for
Right.
at the time, I made good money. So I should not,
Of course you did. And
I don't
yeah,
complain.
you can't go back and beat yourself up over this stuff because you've done it along the way,
Yep,
right?
already done it.
You've
So
made money. So anyways,
I just take my experience and move on to the next one. So yeah, when something falls in my lap, you know, like recently I came across those 91 Imagine autograph cards, 5 of the 8. And for what I paid for them and what I flipped them for,
yeah.
I can't complain at all.
But you know what though? Because you were so active and because you had your hands in so many different things, you sold a lot of stuff, but you did keep a Cosmos Japanese that
So
graded a
yep,
9 that you know is worth, you know, 5 figures presumably. So you know you've done all right. You know,
yeah.
and that's the thing. Like there's some of us in the hobby. I don't look at it that way. I don't sit down and say, okay, I have the only paninis, I have all the WCW autographs, I have all this stuff, and total it up. I just know that there's money there,
Yeah,
but it wasn't accumulated for that purpose. It was
no.
the fun of collecting. And when we first started doing these videos, Chuck and I were the first ones to say, there's a reason why we don't grade. I like looking at my cards in books. It doesn't thrill me to open a cardboard and a cupboard and see all these slabs that I can't get at and which one's where. And again, nothing on those guys. They've bought them for a different purpose, right? I bought them to enjoy, and I enjoy them. Every day I'll pull something, click Twitter, easy to do, fun. That's what it is for me. This is fun. That's what the hobby is to me. More important than what kind of money I made, because luckily I was smart enough to buy real estate in this city over the last 20 years. And now I have a few properties, and that I treat with that kind of energy. But now for cards, it's like I buy cards because I love wrestling and I love the hobby. The guys in the hobby, you and Chuck and Anthony and Zan, and these guys are wonderful people. And it's cool that during
I'm interested in hearing from people, anybody who watches or listens to these episodes. I love to see the comments. If why do you collect? That's why, why do you collect? So are you in it for investment purposes, or you like to collect just because you love the cards? A little bit of both. I mean, I love to hear other people's reasons for being in this hobby are. So leave a comment on this one and let us know why you collect. That'd be great to know.
Yeah.
We got anything else for the month?
No, we covered what's new. We talked about what we expect to come in December. We went to India for a little bit. We covered our numbers. I think we're good. We've wrapped up the month quite nicely.
Yeah, I think every month there's something new, man. There's something new every month, and it's even when it's a slow month from releases and stuff like that, there's still a lot of updates happening.
Yeah, and obviously next month with AEW coming out week after next, we're gonna have plenty to talk about. But who knows? Who knows?
You're waiting on just what for your guy to put together yourself a little mini master set for you on that?
Not a guy specifically. Whoever, as soon as they, the way it normally works with me is I go for whoever's been able to accumulate the largest amount first. So if a guy's put a master set together with all the inserts, I'm not going to quibble over $10 or $20 because the shipping is what kills me. You see, when I have to like Chrome, I have to bring that up in sections and pieces. And it was horrible. I probably had to spend another $80 just in shipping, which is insane, right? To spend that money on getting the product, but I'm in a position now where, I can't have that hole in my collection, so I've kind of put myself in that corner now. It's like, well, I've got a site, I've got people that are expecting me to comment on this stuff. But it's expensive. It does catch up with you after a while.
Well, I'll definitely try to help you as much as I can with that AEW product, because I don't plan on keeping probably any of it really.
I don't think I'm going to chase a lot of the high end product. Like I'm not going to be going after parallels. I'm not going to be going after high end autographs. I mean, an MJF autograph would be nice, but me and 1,000 other people want that card. So, how about you? Well, you got your half a case coming, right?
I got a full case coming.
Oh, I thought you shared that with Zan.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, definitely I'm sharing it with Zan like that, but half case for myself. And
if you guys put together a base set and all the insert sets, then sure, I'll take them from you.
Yeah, we'll definitely have whatever we have on that. So, but we're probably doing a box break of that. We might even be just doing selling spots on box breaks, things like that, and do some box breaks for content, let people have a shot at stuff and have some fun with it, basically. So we did that one thing for Star Stock, and we're open to working with them obviously going forward, and as long as they give us a call and say, hey, we want you guys to come on and do some commentary for this upcoming, we'll do that again. But we're also going to start doing our own box breaks on the Worlds Collide channel, where we're going to be doing I've got 2 boxes sitting behind me right now. We're going to be probably doing some more Topps Chrome. Nice. We're definitely going to be doing some AEW. I've got I printed up a fresh box of Impel I'll be doing, and we'll have that to crack open. So we'll have different levels of buy-ins on all this stuff like that, so everybody can have a piece of it, and just have some fun with it and put it out there. But as that stuff becomes more known for dates, we'll start making announcements on that and let people kind of come in and awesome. Have some fun. So
awesome. All good, man.
How can people get a hold of you, Mr. Price Guide?
Mr. Price Guide, thewrestlingcardpriceguide.com is the site. On Twitter, it's card_guide. And you, sir?
You like how I gave you a little shout out for your little throwback Thursday a few weeks back on your price guide?
Yeah. Did appreciate it.
Yeah, and I got that one the other day from that wrestling collectibles I found, and posted that as well. And Chuckster was nice to post a picture of himself with his, and
yeah, very cool.
That was stealing from us. But everything for WrestlingTradingCards.com can be found at WrestlingTradingCards.com for all social media. All the links at the bottom of every page. So
All
everybody,
right,
go
everyone.
ahead.
See you next month.
Yep, give us a like, follow, comment, whatever you like to do. All the cool kids are doing these days. And until next time, we'll see you next month, man.
Thanks, Tony. See you next time.
All right, we're out.